Hey guys, it's Catie Harris from Philly Wellness Center here, and today we're talking about histamine, mast cells, and your mitochondria because this is the mitochondria channel here. So, the question is, do you react to, let's say, everything, right? Maybe it's food or supplements, even vitamins. I have some patients that are very sensitive to just your B vitamins, which are absolutely essential for your health. And they should help you, but instead, maybe they make you feel worse. And you're like, what in the heck is going on? Maybe you've had unexplained bladder pain, migraines, hives, or anxiety that come out of nowhere. If this sounds familiar, you could be dealing with histamine overload and mast cell activation. So in this video, I want to explain what histamine actually does in your body, how mast cells can get stuck in overdrive, and how this connects to your energy, your mitochondria, and what I call the M pillars of health. So more importantly, I'll show you the first steps you can do to take these steps to regain balance in your life. So first thing, what is histamine? So histamine is not the enemy. I know we think of histamine, we relate it to allergies and getting sinus infections and stuff, but it is actually a messenger. It's a messenger chemical that your body uses. So it regulates stomach acid, and so that you can actually digest food. You need stomach acid to digest proteins and carbohydrates. It helps to keep you awake and alert, which is very good. It's a big player in immune defense, so helping mast cells call in other immune cells when you're exposed to allergens, infections, or injury. So the problem isn't histamine itself. The problem is when histamine's out of balance. So the body likes everything in homeostasis. So if you have too much of this and too little of that, you're going to have issues. And the same with histamine. So if there's too much being released or not enough being broken down, you will have issues. So let's meet the mast cells. Mast cells are immune sensor cells, and they live in tissues all over the body. So your gut, your skin, your bladder, your sinuses, lungs, even your brain, they're everywhere. So their job is to stand guard. You want them, right? They're really important. They're your defense system. When they detect what they think is a threat, they burst open and they release histamine as well as other chemicals, right? So in the short term, that's protective. But when mast cells become unstable or overactive, they can start releasing histamine all the time, even when there's no real threat. And that constant five-alarm fire is what we call mast cell activation, or MCAS. So if you've gotten that diagnosis, that's what's going on. But how do you know? What are some signs that you have histamine or mast cell issues? Well, some common red flags are persistent or insistent interstitial cystitis or bladder pain flares, right? Rashes, itching, hives with no clear allergy. Migraines or headaches that seem food trigger, bloating or digestive upset after healthy foods like spinach, avocado, fermented foods, feeling anxious, wired, unable to sleep even when you're exhausted, and reactions to medications, vitamins, supplements that most people tolerate easy. So if you find yourself saying, everything makes me react, that is a classic mast cell histamine picture. And I see a lot of patients who have many of these things and they've never linked them all together. So I've had patients come in and they get asthma flare-ups, and then they have a contact dermatitis, and then they have allergies, and then they suffer from migraines. That's all the same thing. That's all histamine, right? And then that's something that we want to explore. So you could have a bunch of things that seem random or not connected actually have the basis in the same root cause, and histamine is a big part of that. So this is where I want to give you a little science in plain English and look at what's really happening under the hood here. So when I look at things, I look at it from what we call the M pillars framework, right? That helps stabilize the whole system. So membranes is the first thing. All your cells are wrapped in membranes, right? Mast cells are wrapped in a fatty membrane. That fatty membrane is made up of cholesterol, fatty acids, or phospholipids, plasmalogens. And if that membrane isn't stable because of maybe it's lacking poor nutrition, maybe it's being attacked by oxidative stress, maybe it doesn't have the fats that it needs, like phosphatidylcholine and plasmalogens, and those cells begin to leak, right? So now they can leak histamine too easily. So you have a whole bunch of different cells. Mast cells are just one type of cell. You have red blood cells. You have there's like thousands of different immune cells and types of cells that are out there. So um, you can have a group that are unstable and other cells that aren't as unstable, right? So if the mast cells are targeted, and they're the ones that have the leaky, let's say, membrane, these are the cells that you're going to have the most problems with. Methylation, this is one of the body's detox switches, and it helps to break down histamine through an enzyme called HNMT. So if your methylation cycle is sluggish because of genetics or stress or nutrient deficiencies, the histamine will build up. Mitochondria. So your mitochondria are the energy factories in all your cells. So too much histamine and mast cell activation creates oxidative stress, which damages mitochondria and slows energy production. In turn, stressed mitochondria make mast cells even more irritable. So it's this vicious cycle that just keeps going round and round. And then messengers. Histamine doesn't act alone. It crosstalks with your hormones, right? Like estrogen, stress chemicals like cortisol, and brain chemicals like serotonin. So this is why symptoms start to show up everywhere. Your mood, your skin, your digestion, your sleep, all of it. So it's not in your head. It's the chemistry and the cell biology that drive these reactions. So at Philly Wellness Center, we do have the M pillars of health to stabilize the whole system. So we want to look at everything. Again, the membranes, we want to rebuild healthy cell membranes with the right lipids and to make those mast cells calmer and less likely to dump histamine. So we do things like phosphatidylcholine replacement, plasmalogen replacement, and really look at your oxidative support system. In methylation, we want to support your body's natural detox pathways so histamine is broken down efficiently. This might mean gentle B vitamins, choline, or targeted nutrients depending on your genetics and tolerance. And sometimes we have to wait to do those things because if you're severely sensitive to histamine, there are a couple things that we need to do first in order for you to even tolerate the intervention plan. So mitochondria, things that we need to do to restore energy production and lower oxidative stress. We use things like CoQ10, acetyl L-carnitine, sometimes NAD support, depends on the person, red light therapy, oxygen therapies, and then we have more advanced therapies like EBU, which is extracorporeal blood oxygenation and ozonation, which can help clear out oxidative stress and help restore the membrane or the mitochondria, as well as using a lipoic acid mineral complex, which really supports the mitochondria. Messengers, balancing chemical signals across the body. This includes histamine, but it might include hormones and neurotransmitters. So those are things that we take a look at. And metabolism, correcting the downstream impact on weight, sleep, and resilience. So these are the things that they typically come in because they have a weight problem. And, we might say, well, the reason that you have a weight problem is because you have these histamine symptoms that you never correlated, right? You have this asthma, you have bloating, and you have contact dermatitis, and you have a weight problem. Well, they're all related, right? So the key isn't so much about focusing on weight loss, which is always helpful, but if you want to get to the core issue of it, we need to get to the histamine release and how do we control that. So what can you do next? So if you suspect histamine or mast cells are driving your symptoms, there are a few first steps. You can try a low histamine diet for 4 to 6 weeks to see if the symptoms calm down, and that's generally a good idea. So that's avoiding alcohol, processed foods, and additives that aggravate mast cells. It's probably good advice for just about everybody, even if you don't have these symptoms. Focus on sleep and stress reduction, which can both calm mast cell activity and don't overload yourself with new supplements all at once. I have some people that are on like 50, 60 different supplements, and some of them are counterproductive. Some of them are doing things that we don't want it to do because vitamins, minerals, amino acids, they make up the physical composition of your body, but you don't want to get to the point where you're trying to micromanage what the body's doing. We just want to give it what it needs, and no more, no less. So giving too many supplements at once is not as helpful as you think it might be. So we don't want to overload ourselves with a bunch of supplements, especially a bunch of supplements if you have histamine issues, because your sensitive symptoms or systems are going to do better with one change at a time. So a lot of times, especially if I have people on lots and lots of supplements, we'll take things off like 1 or 2 a week. So if this resonates with you, if you feel like you've been stuck with a cycle reaction with no clear answers, know that you're not alone. Mast cell activation and histamine overload are absolutely real. In conventional medicine, they might not be able to connect the dots for you, but that's why you want to go to a functional provider, especially if you're not getting the answers that you want or need from your regular provider. So you want to come to a place like Philly Wellness Center where we can help you with this cycle of reaction and get those cells under control. So we specialize in calming mast cells, repairing mitochondria, rebuilding health from the inside out. That's our specialty. So if you're ready to get to the root cause, reach out for a consultation. And if you found this helpful, be sure to hit subscribe and share the video with someone who might be struggling. So let's spread the word that your body isn't broken, it just needs balance.